What is your name?
Kelley Good.
Will you please spell your first and last name?
KELLEYGOOD.
And what is today's date?
4/23/19.
All right. What addictions led you to come into Adult and Teen Challenge?
I had multiple addictions. My most severe was methamphetamine, but I was addicted to so many different things throughout the course of my addiction. I started out an alcoholic, and I slowly progressed through heroin, acid, all kinds of things, and the worst one that I ever fought was methamphetamine.
Where did you used to live before Adult and Teen Challenge?
I stayed in Eufaula, Oklahoma.
How did you think God thought of you before coming to Teen Challenge?
I had a very distorted view of God. When I was a young teenager, my dad and my mom split up. And when they did, my dad turned into a very abusive alcoholic. And I pretty much took it on as a full-time job to babysit him. He let me know every day that he didn't value his life at all. And somehow, in the midst of all that, I just kind of fell apart and fell away from God and thought that my life wouldn't be happening like this if God were there. And I began to fall under a bunch of lies. I found my dad dead when I was 18. And when I did, I really did run away from God. I thought I pushed everything that was good for me out of my life. And I guess I just started believing that God wouldn't let that happen if he loved me.
How did your addiction make you feel?
Lonely, really sick, really dirty. I did things I never would have thought I would ever do in my life. I clung to people that I knew were no good for me. I was very violent, and I hated everything about myself.
Describe how your addiction affected the people around you.
Well, my oldest son, I entered a relationship with that was extremely violent. And the person I was with turned on my son and beat him almost to death. And that was probably a pivotal moment in my life where I realized that my choices weren't just about me anymore.
Tell us a story when your addiction in life was at its worst.
In that same moment with my son, all of a sudden, he's taken to the hospital and I'm thrown in jail, and I was promised I would never see the light of day. And strange to me that at that moment my brain just shifted, and all I could say was, God's not going to let this happen. And all of a sudden my faith began to build. And I had no anything to do with anything, church, anything like that, but in my heart I could feel that this wasn't going to be where this stopped. And I hit my knees in the jail cell, and I prayed and said, God, if you see something better for me as a mom, if I'm going to ever be anything better for this child, get me out of here. And if not, let me go to prison. And a week later, I was out.
Describe yourself physically and mentally just before you came into the program.
I was tormented. I was full of self-hate. The choices that I had made and the things that had happened in the relationships that I had, I was total mess. I had no hope. I hated myself so much, even for what happened to my son, let alone the things that I was doing every day. I was like a blank canvas.
During your stay at the program, what scripture verses did you find helpful?
The first one that stood out to me was the Philippians 4:13, because that's when I realized I didn't have to depend on my own strength, that God would provide me strength. And I always liked that one. And I like the one about the shepherd and the 99 sheep. I don't know what verse it is, but
Let's see. How did Adult and Teen Challenge help you?
my leaders here, can I say their names? My leaders here showed me that I didn't have to live the way I was living. Like, they helped me to see that the things that had happened in my life, I didn't have to look at them in a bad perspective. Like, I could see God's grace all of a sudden, and it's like so much mental torment left my brain. I wasn't sitting there living and wallowing in self-pity anymore. I could see that I had things to be thankful for.
That's good. Describe when God broke the chains of your addiction.
I think throughout my whole stay here, I was very floored and very amazed at the fact that I'd been doing meth for 20 years. I'd been smoking cigarettes for 20 years. And as soon as I hit the door, I never even had one craving. So it was pretty immediate to me.
Tell us a story of your most memorable experience with God in the program. You can talk about anything. Worship, class, summit.
Let's see. I think that the moment that I realized that I was like harboring a lot of unforgiveness, and when I finally broke free from that, which was only just a couple months ago, I went crying into one of my leaders' office, and I said, I do not want to leave the same way I came in. And through that conversation and through working with them, those chains of unforgiveness, it's like I could hear them hit the floor. And when I broke that in my heart, things started happening for me.
How do you think God thinks of you now?
I know that God loves me now. And I get to go home and I get to be with both of my sons. I now have 2 sons. And I get a chance to move forward, and I don't have to live like this anymore. I know that He cares. He had everything designed before I ever even got anywhere near it happening. And now I know that I'm more than cared about. I'm loved.
Sum up your life in one paragraph, kind of like a black and white.
Okay. Let's see. I got an unfair start to life, and I chose to believe a bunch of lies. And I really saw myself labeled as doomed. Like, I really believed that being stuck in addiction was going to be me. I was a drug dealer, a drug doer, and I really claimed that as my identity. But God saw something different for me. And sitting in a little bitty jail cell in the middle of nowhere, some people came in and they talked to me, and I decided to go to Teen Challenge. And Teen Challenge came and picked me up from that jail, and my whole life turned around. And now I don't even feel like the same person as when I first got here. And I am going to leave this place, and I'm going to go forward in my life. And I know that I am. And God's going to hold my hand the whole way through.
That was really good. Okay, I'm going to say this phrase, and then you're going to repeat it and then finish, like, fill in the blank.
Okay.
And it's Adult and Teen Challenge made me into...
Adult and Teen Challenge made me into a brand new person molded by God.
Can you say it again? 'Cause I went...
Teen Challenge made me into...
Teen Challenge.
Adult and Teen Challenge made me into a brand new person molded by God.
And what are your plans after graduation?
I'm going to go home, and I'm going to be a mom, and I'm going to get a job, and I'm just going to be happy with the rest of my life and realize it's a gift from the Lord.
Is there anything else you want to add? Anything on your heart at all? If not, it's okay too.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
good.
Good job.